Alrighty, and we are recording. So welcome to another week here at Bryan's Beginner's Basics. And so today we are covering the center part of your instrument. I mentioned just before we started recording here that I'm going to be on an easy 10 today. Okay, so that's in the easy line of instruments. So if you have an easy 1, an easy 2, easy 3, easy 4, or obviously easy 10, this should look very familiar. And I think most of the folks on today have easy instruments, so that's why I chose this one again this week. However, if you do have a larger model, if you have something that's in the E series, like an EY, a Fanfare or Journey, or an Inspire or Rialto, or the bigger ones, the EX being the Marquis, Grand Marquis, and Aria, you will still have the same basic technology. You'll just have more stuff, basically. You have more buttons and more options. But I wanted to start off with something that everybody has on the EZ series. Actually, and also the EY as well. Okay? And that is the Songs button. So we're going to talk about a few different things here today that are very similar in name, but very different in what they actually do. And I think that's really important, because what you have here are buttons that say Songs, Song Setup, and Style Setup. Okay? So all different functions. However, they do sound very similar when you're just mentioning them. So I want to make sure, hopefully by the end of today, oops, spotlight my video there. Oh, that's not working for me. There we go. So by the end of today, I'm hoping that everyone will know the difference between songs, song setup, style setup, and then some of your feature options. Okay? So let's get right into it here. We're going to start with songs. Songs is the easiest one to remember, I think, because, well, it's just a song, right? So if you touch songs, you're going to come up with a list, and the amount of songs that you will have is going to be different on each instrument. Okay, the minimum that you'll have is on an easy 1, you'll have 10 songs plus the demo. The easy 2 is going to have 20. I think the easy 4 has 30. The easy 10 has 40. Let me double check. Yep, easy 10 has 40. And then the Fanfare and the Journey will have 60. And that's the most built-in songs that you would have. Okay, once you get beyond the Journey, so if you have an Inspire or above, or something that does not have the built-in songs, the difference is that you then have either a USB stick on the newer models, or what they used to make was a floppy disk drive. Okay, so if you have one of those, either the disk drive or the USB, then what you have instead of the built-in songs is you have the ability to load whatever songs you want via your USB stick. Okay, does that make sense? So if you have an EZ series, which again is most people on our class today, then you will have a certain amount of built-in songs. Okay, if you don't have built-in songs, that means you have a larger model, and then you can add songs to your stick. You do have to have somebody record them for you, or you can record them yourself, but that's how you get that. Okay, so what happens if I pick a song here? Let's go to something like, oh, I don't know what I feel on here. There's so many good ones, it's hard to choose. How about, I just passed a real good one. Where did that go? All right, let's do Country Roads. Okay, so what I did was I touched songs. Okay, when I touch songs here, it's going to bring up a list, and then you use your scroll buttons to select whatever song you want. So I'm going to do Country Roads here. Now, once you select on the screen, you touch the red button that actually says select. Now, as soon as I touch that, you're going to hear the song start playing. And notice that I'm not doing anything. I didn't touch a chord. I'm not touching the notes. This is completely playing on its own. And I don't know if you can see on the screen here, but it's actually changing the chords. So E minor, So I won't do the whole song, but hopefully you get the point there. If you go to songs, You select whichever one you want to play, or I'm sorry, you scroll to whichever one you want to play, and then you touch select. Okay, and that could be any of the songs. On the Easy 10 here, I got 40 to pick from. So if we were going to do, let's pick a different one here. Let's do something like, ooh, does anybody remember Easter Parade? That's a really hard one. If you took the Red Books, I think that's in Red Book 3, maybe, Red Book 4. Yeah, I think it's Red Book 4. And this is one of the more challenging ones. And why I picked this one, even though we're nowhere near Easter, if you start playing it now, for one thing, you'll probably have it ready by next Easter, which is a good thing. But also, one of the things you can do is you can change different aspects of the song recording. In other words, if I just scrolled to it and touch select, it's going to start playing, just like Country Roads. Let's say I wanted to do Easter Parade and I wanted to try to play along with it. I can actually do that. So check this out. I'm going to hit it again. Once you come in, I'm okay. Can you hear that? Maybe it's easier to hear if I play different notes. You can go an octave
up. Freezing.
Okay. It's freezing?
Yeah. Yeah, freezing.
Oh, I don't know. It's it's not frozen on my end. I don't know. Hopefully it'll catch up. But anyway, my point being that you can play along with the song, and that's really cool. So Easter Parade, though, as I mentioned, is a fairly difficult song, and also it's kind of fast, right? So when I hit select to start the song, it comes up at 104. Well, check this out. You go back to that feature I talked about last week, tempo. Now we're playing 81. Lower keyboard is fine too. So that's pretty neat, right? So you can slow it down to whatever tempo you want to play at. So it kind of acts like a little, like a teacher's tool there, because you can play along with the song at whatever tempo you want to play with. And I know I'm focused on the center panel here, but if I showed you down here on the lower left keyboard, I wasn't actually playing the chords. I was only playing the melody, right? So when I start the song, remember, it changes the chords for me. So I can do just the right hand. Have some fun with this. I'll slow it back down again a little bit. Let's suppose I want to hear it on a different sound. Right now it's on like saxophones. Let's say I want to hear it on trumpet. I can go over to trumpet. Now that's a little bit high on that one, so maybe I'll pick something else.
Yeah, that's cool.
Different guitar sounds. You can pick any sound you want. There's choir. That sounds kind of nice. So anything you feel like changing, whether it's the tempo, or you could take away the drums or add the drums if you want, anything that you could change when you're playing a song, you can also change on the song's feature. Okay? Now, it does not change it permanently. So as soon as I go back to songs,
We've lost you, Bryan.
Yes, I lost him too.
I've lost him too.
Oh, Sylvie, your picture's not on. Hello from Fred and Anka.
Oh, is that Fred?
Yeah, Fred and Anka.
For goodness sake, how are you?
We're doing well.
Good, good. Yeah, this is my first time.
Hi guys,
doing
sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're back.
it. Now.
We got
All
kicked
set.
off our internet for a second.
Okay.
It
All right, you're forgiven.
should be reconnected now. Sorry about that. It actually happened at probably the best time it could have because I just finished talking about one thing and was just about to go into another. So,
Can I ask you a question, Bryan?
yes, please.
On when you're using I have the easy one, but on the larger instruments, when you use the USB or whatever you were talking about to record, can you also play with it too, along with
Yeah.
it, like you do on the easy one?
Yep, absolutely. Not only can you play with it, but you also have different options too. So you can do stuff like you can play just the chords if you want to and have the instrument play the melody, or you can do the opposite. You can play just the melody, have the instrument play the chords. And of course, you have all the same options as far as changing the tempo, changing whatever you want.
That's cool.
And same thing with the disc instruments too. I mean, now the disc stuff is like if you ever heard us talk about the SU series, those are a little bit older models, but I mean they still sound amazing. And really, the only difference, difference as far as our instruments are concerned between a disc and a stick is the disc holds about 30 songs and 30 setups. So you can save 30 of your own songs, 30 of your own setups for arrangements for music. The difference compared with that with the USB stick is the stick holds like 250.
Wow.
Okay, so it's really just a numbers thing. The way that they function is absolutely identical. So a lot of people have been making the decision to go to the SU series because they're still really really good instruments. Beautiful wooden cabinets and everything, great sound. So if that's ever something that anybody has thought about, don't let the thing throw you off just because it's a floppy disk. It's not. I mean, it is a little bit older technology, but it works the same way as the USB stick.
I didn't realize you could change the instruments while playing the song.
Yeah.
So that's something I just learned. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions about the songs so far? Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody again, but as I said before, you are free to unmute anytime you like if you have a question. So the next thing after songs is song setup. Now this is something that starts on the Easy 3, okay? So Easy 1 and Easy 2 are not going to have song setup, but Easy 3, 4, and above will have that. So if I touch song setup, it also comes up with an alphabetical listing of songs, okay? And actually, the song list that we just talked about is not alphabetical. That's in order of books. So, the first 10 are going to be your Red Book 1 or Conductor Magic. Next 10 are going to be Red Book 2 and so on. Song setup is alphabetized. Okay. So, when we're going through the songs here, let's go to something like, oh man, I always have trouble picking because there's so many good ones. Let's do 5'2". Okay, 5'2", Eyes of Blue. Okay, when I touch select, what happened? Does anybody know? Feel free to unmute if you know what happened. I scrolled through on song setup, went to 5'2", and hit select. So what happened?
The machine sets it up.
Yeah, Fred, you get the gold star. So what he said, in case you can't hear, he said the machine sets it up. And set up is the key word here, right? Songs plays the song for you. Song setup just gives you the setup for the song. Or in other words, like Fred said, the machine sets it up for you. Okay? So in this case, I have to actually play the song, right? Which is why when I touched select, it sounds like nothing happened because you're not hearing anything. But all of the buttons changed to set it up for 5'2" in this case. So now I'll just play a little bit of that for you. Pretty cool. Now, if I go to another one, let's say I was going to do Girl from Ipanema, right? I just scrolled on my list of song setups. I touch select. Now everything is set up for Girl from Ipanema. So that's the difference between songs and song setup, is that song setup only gives you the setup for the song that you're selecting. And one of the cool things is that, in the Easy 4 and the Easy 10, I believe you have 100 song setups, maybe the same also on the 3. Now, 100 songs is a lot, but overall, it's kind of a drop in the bucket of the overall amount of songs that are out there, right? Well, the good news is that you can play any song with any song setup. Now, you'd probably want to stick to songs that are the same genre or the same kind of feel to it. But if I pick something like, I Left My Heart in San Francisco, right? Beautiful jazz ballad. Okay, I touch select. So now it's all set up to play I Left My Heart in San Francisco. But let's say I didn't want to play that one. Let's say I wanted to play Misty. All right, Misty is another beautiful jazz ballad. But even though I selected Left My Heart in San Francisco, hit select, the instrument doesn't actually know I'm going to play that song, right? It doesn't know I'm going to play I Left My Heart in San Francisco. It just knows I'm going to set up a series of things, a music style, a tempo, introduction, melody sound, for something that would sound good for that song. So, even though I selected Left My Heart in San Francisco, let's do Misty instead. I could play any jazz ballad with that. So when you're going through your song list, even on the upper end models, I think maybe the top is about, I'm thinking about 1,000 songs maybe in the song setup. I'd have to double check. But even that is still, compared to all the songs that are out there, you're not going to find every single song. But what you can do is find something that's very close to the song that you want to play. So as you're scrolling through your song setup and you think, man, mine's not in there, well, look closely at every title, right? Or just go to your manual. You'll have a listing in the back of everything that you have. Just start scrolling through and say, let's say I wanted to play There Will Never Be Another You. That's a song that I like. It's kind of a jazz standard, right? Well, that's not in here. I'm 100% sure because it's not a super popular song. However, I just came across Lady is a Tramp. Now that's going to give me a very similar song setup, right? Whether I'm playing or I can play my song. So hopefully that explains it pretty well. So when you're going through there, just about any song can be played. You just have to find something that sounds like the song that you're trying to find if it's not in there as the original title. Does anybody have any questions on that? Alrighty, so now I'm going to move on to style setup. Style setup. So we did songs, song setup, style setup. So everybody has style setup. If you have an E series instrument, you have style setup. If somebody happens to have an A series or an SU series or anything like that, they used to call it rhythm preset. Okay, so if you ever hear somebody say rhythm preset versus style setup, really it's the same thing. They just changed the terminology. Okay, so style setup is the current name for it. And more important is, what does it do? Well, what style setup does, among other things, the main part is it will select a melody sound, okay, so in other words, your right-hand sound, for whatever style of music that you've picked. So let's take country, for example. If I do country, it's going to give me a country guitar. Right? If I go to standards, it's going to give me trombone. If I go to Latin, it's going to give me vibes. Right? Because that's the main job of style setup, is to pick a melody sound that goes with whatever you've selected. And all you have to do is pick your style. It does the rest of the work for you. If you happen to be on a 2-keyboard instrument, so like an Easy 4 or above, on your lower right keyboard, you get another melody sound, right? That's one of the big things of having 2 keyboards, is you get 2 sounds per style setup. So for example, on the Easy 1, 2, and 3, you have the one style setup button there, and then that gives you one sound. If you have the 2 keyboards, Easy 4 and above, that one style setup doubles your sounds. So instead of just vibes, now I have Spanish guitar. Okay, if I go back to that standards, I had trombone. Now I have piano on the lower. Okay, that country. Okay, so each one is going to give you 2 sounds. Okay, one for the upper, one for the lower. So that's pretty cool. As you go up to the Easy 10, the 10 is the first in the series that has these setups in the middle. So everybody has that initial style setup button. If you have the numbered buttons in the middle, what that means is now each button that you go to, so style setup 1, for example, I'm still on country, is going to give me an additional 2 melody sounds. So now I have country piano and harmonica. If I go to 5, I get fiddles and mandolin. Okay, I get honky tonk. So anyway, point being that every numbered button in the middle is going to give you a different sound on the upper and a different sound on the lower. on the Easy 10, for example, you have what they call style setup 0. That's that button itself. And then 1 through 5 for a total of 6 style setups. So at 2 sounds per thing, that means you're getting 12 sounds without having to do any work. It's all programmed into the instrument, and that goes for each style, because remember, it changes. That's the whole important part about style setup, is that it changes so that you don't have to pick all the sounds. You know, well, maybe I don't know what sounds go well with the Latin band or the gospel band or the marching band or mix. Well, what the heck does mix mean? It could mean a lot of things. Well, they've already chosen the sounds for you, okay? Now, you can switch to different sounds at any time, and that's going to be something we go into next week when we get into the right part of the instrument. But a lot of people, myself included, just like using those style setups. And the reason for that being, they're already really good sounds, and they're programmed in there. So the hard part was done for you. You know, the research of what instruments would sound good, putting them in the right range, you know, getting the volumes all balanced. The folks at Lowry have done all that for you. Okay, so once you select what music style you want, which is, you know, again, something that we covered last week. Let's say I'm going to do Broadway and pianist, okay? All of these buttons are going to give me 2 melody sounds that were specifically selected for that one music style. Another thing that's kind of cool is if you have the option for pianist and guitarist. One of the things we had talked about last week was bringing in the drummer, right? So if I have the piano player going here, right, and I decide I want to add drums, I can hold down the drums. All right, hopefully you guys remember that from last week. Well, check this out. If I have my style set up on, this works for any pianist or guitarist. Okay, if I go to number 1, you hear it's still just piano, right? Go to number 2. Still just piano. Now keep in mind the melody sounds are changing. Okay, so like 1 is society piano, and whistle. 2 is banjo. But now listen to this. If I go to 3, 4, or 5, the whole band comes in automatically in addition to another melody sound. 1 button touch, whole band's in there. Okay? So typically 0, 1, and 2 will be either just the piano or just the guitar for this, you know, pianist or guitarist that you've chosen. Once you go to 3, 4, or 5, you get the whole band. So isn't that pretty neat? And of course, the more numbered buttons you have, the more sounds you get. So some instruments will have up to 8. That would be like the fanfare or the journey. And the most that you would have is up to number 10. So you'd have style setup 0 plus 1 through 10. Okay. Any questions on that, on style setups? I don't see any hands. Alrighty, so let me just recap real quick, and then I want to go into just a second into your feature menu here. But again, the songs we talked about, songs plays the song for you. Okay, that's if you just want to listen, or if you want to play along, knowing that the chords are going to change for you, and you know, you just basically want to listen or kind of play along with the melody. Okay, and again, you can do that on the upper or the lower keyboard if you have a 2-keyboard instrument. And usually it's easier to hear it on the lower keyboard because then it's a different melody sound. Okay, song setup, as Fred correctly put it there, just has the instrument set it up for you. So you still have the list of songs, but that's for when you want to play it. The style setup is for choosing your melody sounds, and that usually should always be on. If you want to change it afterwards, you can do that, but I would start with style setup turned on, see what they have, and especially if they have the numbered buttons in the middle, make sure you go exploring, and then you might want to even write that down on your sheet music. You know, for you know, Sound of Music, I really like number 4. for the first part, and then I like number 1 for the second part, or whatever. Okay. Now the feature menu, I'm not going to go through everything in here, but the feature menu is essentially the same on any instrument. Okay. Now on the Easy 1, you don't have a feature button. I believe on the Easy 2, it starts with the feature menu. And what that essentially allows you to do is just change some different stuff, right? You can go into there, and a lot of people don't mess around with this too much, and that's why I just kind of wanted to save it for the end. It's almost just kind of like an afterthought, but some things you will want to use. I want to make sure I pointed that out. So if I touch feature, I believe the first thing that comes up, at least on the 10 here, is bass pedals. Now I mentioned this briefly last week, but you can do your glide sustain on the bass pedals. Okay. Now, obviously, you have to have an instrument that has pedals. That would be a 10 or above. But that can be either used for normal, which is right, bass notes, or in that case, it was actually piano notes down low. Or if I put glide sustain on, then here it's doing that glide, but that was on the pedal. Okay, so we talked about that last week. That's one of your feature options. As you scroll, you can do stuff like change your orchestral octave, orchestral level. Not super important, I don't think, for most people, but then you get to a really important one. This is on the 4 and on the 10, okay? And it's the transpose. That's a really important feature. Okay, so if I go to select, right now it's set to B flat because I played a song earlier that transposed it to B flat. Okay, normally it's going to say C. And C means it's really not transposed at all. But when you're playing, and sometimes it's written in your music, or sometimes you might do a workshop or one of our variety classes that we've been doing here on Zoom, and it'll say transpose. Well, that's how you get to it on the 4 and the 10. On some of the higher models, the fanfare and above, you'll actually have a transpose button that is right on the panel. On the 4 and the 10, though, you want to go into the feature menu, go to transpose by hitting select, and then you can use your scroll button to transpose to whatever you want to for that song. So let me show you a quick example here. Right now, at the end there, I was just doing it to show you. You wouldn't want to actually transpose every 2 measures or whatever. But could you hear the sound going up there? Joni's called that a musical lift. And I think that's a great way to put it because it literally lifts the pitch up, right? Literally lifts what you're playing to a different key. Now, if you're not exactly sure what transpose is, I would suggest getting a one-on-one Zoom session or help session here at the store with one of us. But that is where you find it on your instrument. You can also change the split. That's another one that you might use. So lower split, if you go to select, it'll say F sharp 3, and that just means that if you count from the bottom up, there's F sharp 1 is the first one. You go up to the next one, that's F sharp 2, and then finally F sharp 3 is right here. And that's the default split point on all of the instruments. So if you want to change that, that's how you get that. Okay, you go to feature, select lower split, and then all you have to do is just touch whatever note you want it to split to. So if I touch A, okay, it'll say A2 in that case. Now, I usually don't change it myself, but sometimes if you've ever been playing and your right hand runs out of notes, I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody. Sometimes it happens on like Mary Ann if you're playing on a 1 keyboard. But if you ever are wanting to change that split point to get more notes, you can do that. Okay, but by default, it'll be F sharp 3. Some of the other things are sustain and, ooh, there's another good one, touch. Okay,
Bryan,
change their touch. Yeah, Fred.
Okay, the split's only good for the moment, right?
Until you turn off the instrument. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's true on all the models. Yep. And once you reset it or turn it off, then you'll have to reset the split. That's correct. Okay. And then the only other one I think I wanted to mention is the touch. This is an important one. Okay. Touch has to do with how hard you have to touch the key to make it sound good. Okay. So I usually like to demonstrate this with a piano sound. Okay. So I just have my regular piano on there. If I go to touch and touch is set to on, what that means is if anybody's ever played an actual piano, you know, what happens is when you bring the key down like that, there's an actual mechanism, right, a hammer that's going to strike the strings, and that hammer hitting the strings is what makes the noise that you hear as a piano, right? So on the electronic instruments, they've tried to replicate having a feature that they call touch. When that's turned on, that means if I touch the keys very lightly, I don't even know if you can hear it on Zoom. Hopefully it's coming across, but it's very, very quiet. If I touch it kind of medium volume, it sounds about medium. And if I go louder, it sounds louder. Okay, now, if you're somebody who used to play piano, you might like that. I happen to like it because it feels more authentic on the keys. I will say that most of our students like to have that off, okay, touch set to off. Reason being, then if I touch the key very soft or very hard, it's going to sound the same. It gives it a uniform sound, and it's actually easier physically to play that way. So I would recommend probably, if you're in the majority of our other students, to set it to off, because that means that no matter how hard or how soft you touch the key, you'll get a good sound. It'll be loud enough for you. And I've seen a lot of students over the years that they'll be playing, and you can't hear it, right? Or they'll call me and they'll say, you know, my keyboard's broken, and okay, well, what's wrong with it? Well, I can't hear it. Well, is your touch on? They'll either say, what do you mean? And I'll explain it like I just did for you guys. Or they'll say, oh, yeah, I forgot to turn it off. So you can try it with it on too, you know, try it with it on, but just know that it does make a pretty big difference in how it actually sounds when you play, in terms of the volume. Okay. So that's some of the stuff in the feature menu. You know, I didn't go into everything because some of the stuff it's going to be very rarely used, but go exploring. You know, if there's something in there that I didn't discuss today and you think, well, I really would like to know what orchestral levels mean, you know, bring that back as a question for next week. But does anybody have questions on anything we did today? So we did, let's see, we did songs, then song setup, then style setup, and then your feature menu. So any questions on any of that stuff? Did you guys learn something today?
Yeah, great reinforcement, Brian, and it just allows us to enjoy our machine more.
Good, good. No questions, though? All righty. Well, that's all I got for today. Remember, if you take Joni's class, that's going to be tomorrow at 11, and she'll be doing the Over the Rainbow book. Do you know what song you're doing, Joni? It'll be a surprise for tomorrow. Okay, and then, of course, Wednesday and Thursday we have our variety classes, and then we got a big special thing coming up on Friday for our Zoom musical. So, I don't know, have you guys gotten the email about that already? You should have. Yeah, it's going to be 7 performers from 7 stores on 7 different instruments, with a special address by our company owner, John Riley, who this is going to be his first time jumping on Zoom with everybody. So be a lot of fun. I'm going to be playing one of the songs. I'll be representing our store for that show, and it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fast-paced thing. You know, if you got 7 people in 7 stores, we're going to be going, you know, okay, this is Bryan from Sun City, and this is what I'm going to play. Here's what I did to set it up, and play, and then we're on to the next. So it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys can join us for that. Of course, if there's anything that we can do in the meantime, help sessions either at the store or on Zoom, just let us know. You know where we are. We're here. All righty.
Okay, thank you, Bryan. See you next
You're very
Monday.
welcome. My pleasure. Great to see you, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.